He turned a $5,000 investment into a $1 million crypto portfolio in less than a year. The internet hailed him as a genius, but behind the screens a storm was brewing, one that would destroy everything he thought he knew about money, loyalty, and success. This isn't a story about getting rich. It's a story about what happens after. Brandon Keller was never the type to chase the spotlight. At 32, he lived a quiet life in a modest apartment in Austin, Texas. A software engineer by trade, he spent his days buried in code and his nights scrolling through online forums, always searching for the next big thing. In early 2021, that thing found him, hidden deep in a Reddit thread titled "DeFi is Eating Wall Street." That night, something shifted. Not just in the markets. In Brandon. He'd always been curious about crypto, but cautious. The volatility, the scams, the meme coins, it all seemed too risky. But as he read post after post of ordinary people turning small investments into life-changing wealth, a voice inside him whispered, "Why not you?" He took $5,000, his emergency savings, and split it across 3 obscure altcoins. One of them, a microcap token named Orion Flux, promised to revolutionize digital identity. Brandon didn't fully understand the tech, but he understood momentum, and he could see it building. By April, his 5,000 had become 50. By June, it was $500,000. And by the end of August, Brandon's wallet showed $1.1 million. He didn't celebrate. Not at first. It felt unreal, like watching someone else's life from the outside. But reality hit fast. The moment he cashed out a portion to pay off his student loans, his bank called to verify the deposit. Friends he hadn't heard from in years suddenly wanted to catch up. Strangers on Twitter started calling him a visionary. He gained 20,000 followers in a month after sharing a screenshot of his portfolio with the caption, "I bet on a dream. It paid off." That's when the emails started. Interviews, podcast invitations, partnership proposals. People wanted to know how he did it, what coins he was buying, what he thought about the market. Brandon wasn't ready, but he said yes anyway. He quit his job in October. With newfound freedom and money to burn, he dove headfirst into the crypto world. He bought a high-rise condo in downtown Austin, installed a mining rig for show, and rebranded his social media as Keller Crypto. His videos were raw but passionate, part analysis, part evangelism. He spoke with conviction, calling blockchain the last financial revolution of our time. Viewers ate it up. He was charismatic without trying, intelligent without arrogance. But beneath the success, something was changing. Brandon started ignoring the nagging voice that warned him to slow down. He no longer checked on his old friends. He missed his mother's birthday. When his younger sister asked for help with rent, he sent her Ethereum and told her to hold. He wasn't just making money. He was becoming someone else. The turning point came at an invite-only party in Miami, hosted by one of the biggest names in the crypto influencer space. The rooftop was filled with 20-somethings in designer clothes, sipping cocktails and talking about Web3 empires. Brandon felt like he belonged. When a well-known trader introduced him to a small circle of insiders and called him the next oracle, Brandon didn't laugh. He believed it. Later that night, looking out over the neon-lit skyline, Brandon made a silent vow to never return to his old life. Not the code, not the office, not the uncertainty. Crypto had given him a new identity, and he wasn't letting it go. He didn't know it yet, but that identity would soon come at a cost no coin could cover. The weeks after Miami felt like a blur. Brandon's days turned into a whirlwind of live streams, Zoom calls, and podcast appearances. His DMs were flooded with messages from fans calling him King Keller, asking for advice, begging for insider tips. He responded to almost none of them. Not out of arrogance, but exhaustion. He had become the very thing he used to scoff at, a guru, and the weight of it was starting to crush him. He moved to Miami in November, lured by the promise of palm trees, lower taxes, and a high-octane lifestyle fueled by crypto profits. He settled into a luxury penthouse just 2 floors below a group of crypto influencers who called themselves the Chain Circle. They weren't developers or economists. They were marketers, traders, hype artists, and they welcomed Brandon like a brother. Their days started with green smoothies and ended with Dom Perignon. Strategy meetings were held shirtless by the rooftop pool. Deals were struck over sushi and tequila. Brandon found it intoxicating. The Chain Circle spoke in absolutes. Bitcoin to $1 million fiat is dead. You're either early or poor. It wasn't logic, it was doctrine. And slowly Brandon stopped thinking critically. He stopped thinking altogether. He started endorsing coins he didn't believe in, promoting NFT projects he didn't understand. One week, he made $80,000 from a single tweet about a new DAO. Another week, he lost $120,000 trying to short Ethereum during a rally. The numbers blurred. The thrill replaced reason. His YouTube channel exploded. 500,000 subscribers. Sponsors lined up with 5-figure offers for 60-second mentions. People in Discord servers quoted his predictions like scripture. But behind the curtain, Brandon was unraveling. He stopped sleeping. His diet consisted of energy drinks, Adderall, and delivery sushi. His eyes developed a permanent redness from staring at charts and Discord threads all night. He started canceling calls with his accountant, ignoring emails from his mother. When an old friend from college texted him, "Are you okay? You don't seem like you anymore," Brandon blocked the number without replying. He justified it all. He told himself this was just a phase, that sacrifices were necessary for greatness, that he was building a legacy. But deep down, a part of him knew. He wasn't leading a movement. He was chasing a dragon. The Chain Circle loved to gamble. Not just on coins, but on people. They thrived on manipulation, backdoor deals, pump and dumps, psychological games. Brandon, blinded by their approval, didn't see the red flags. He trusted Luca the most. Luca was everything Brandon wasn't. Flashy, fearless, and completely devoid of conscience. A Croatian-born trader with perfect hair and a sinister smile, Luca claimed he once turned $10,000 into $8 million during a bear market. Brandon idolized him. Luca called Brandon his brain, and Brandon called Luca his shield. When Luca pitched him on a private token sale, invite only, pre-launch, guaranteed 10x. Brandon didn't hesitate. He invested $350,000 without reading the white paper. "You trust me, right?" Luca had asked, clinking his glass. Brandon nodded. "With my life." That night, as they celebrated the deal on a rented yacht with neon lights and bottle service, Brandon looked out over the black ocean and felt something for the first time in months. Doubt. He shook it off. Told himself he was being paranoid. But the feeling lingered, like a glitch in the code, like a warning, and it would prove to be more than just a feeling. It began with silence. Not the kind that comes from peace, but the suffocating, calculated kind. The kind that follows a trap snapping shut. 2 weeks after Brandon wired $350,000 into the private token sale, the promised launch date came, and went with no announcement. No tweets, no press releases, no chatter in the forums. The project's website went dark. The token contract disappeared from Etherscan. Even the Telegram group, once buzzing with hype and pre-launch excitement, had vanished overnight. At first, Brandon tried to rationalize it. "They're just reorganizing," he told himself. "Maybe there's a strategic delay." But Luca wasn't answering his calls. Not his texts, not his emails, not even the voice messages Brandon sent in a panicked whisper from the balcony of his Miami penthouse. The silence stretched into days. Then came a DM, an anonymous Twitter account with a frog avatar. The message was short: "Check this thread. You've been conned." It linked to a 10-part exposé breaking down the token Brandon had invested in. The thread dissected its fake white paper, traced the developers' wallet addresses, and revealed their ties to previous scams. At the center of it all was Luka. Real name: Luka Jovanovic. No $8 million win. No hedge fund background. Just a history of pump and dumps, fake IDs, and shell companies registered in the British Virgin Islands. Brandon felt the blood drain from his face. He read it again and again, hoping some part of it was wrong, but it wasn't. The money was gone. The token was never real. And worse, Brandon had promoted it. In a live stream just days before, he'd called it the future of decentralized identity, urging his audience to get in early before it moons. He wasn't just a victim. He was a vector. The shame hit harder than the loss. He stormed down to Luka's apartment, fists clenched, heart racing. But the place was empty. Furniture gone, curtains drawn. The doorman told him Luka had moved out yesterday. Just like that, like a ghost slipping through a crack in the wall. Back upstairs, Brandon trashed his office, shattering monitors, ripping his webcam from the mount, screaming until his voice broke. Then he collapsed on the floor, eyes fixed on the ceiling, as the realization sank in. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the lie. He had built his empire on sand, trusted the wrong people, ignored every warning sign. And now, with the scam unraveling publicly, his reputation was imploding. The next morning, your Keller scam trended on Twitter. Reddit threads accused him of being complicit. YouTube creators dissected his videos frame by frame, pointing out every exaggeration, every affiliate link, every signal of fraud. His sponsors pulled out. Patreon subscribers vanished. YouTube demonetized his channel. In less than a week, Brandon went from crypto hero to digital pariah. He considered posting a video to explain, to apologize, to tell the truth, but his lawyer advised against it. "Anything you say can and will be used against you," she said coldly. So he said nothing. The chain circle disowned him. They blocked him from group chats, erased their collaborations, scrubbed him from thumbnails. One of them even mocked him in a live stream, calling him Keller the Clueless. Brandon watched it alone, from his darkened apartment, jaw clenched, hands trembling. Then came the emails. Hundreds of them. People who had lost money. People who had trusted him. People threatening lawsuits. A woman in Toronto said she put in $12,000, her entire emergency fund. A single father from Phoenix said he mortgaged his car based on Brandon's recommendation. They wanted refunds. They wanted revenge. They wanted him to hurt the way they were hurting. And Brandon agreed with them. He unplugged everything, sold his condo at a loss, disappeared from social media. No goodbye, no explanation. Just gone. He packed a suitcase, withdrew what little fiat he had left, and hit the road. No destination, just distance. Somewhere in the middle of nowhere, in a cheap motel room smelling of mildew and regret. Brandon looked into the bathroom mirror. The man staring back at him wasn't a millionaire. He wasn't a prophet. He wasn't even Brandon Keller. He was just another fool who thought he could cheat the system, and lost everything in the process. The motel was in Alabama, or maybe Mississippi. Brandon wasn't sure anymore. The road, signs blurred together like the days he'd driven aimlessly to nowhere. It had been 3 months since Luka vanished, and his name became digital poison. 3 months of low-budget motels, gas station meals, and staring at cracked ceilings while trying not to cry. He hadn't showered in 4 days. His clothes smelled like sweat and mildew. His crypto wallet was a joke. What little remained had been swallowed by gas fees and transaction failures. He didn't care. Every night he lay in bed and stared at the ceiling fan spinning like a broken compass. Every morning he debated whether he should keep going. Not with life, he wasn't suicidal. Not exactly. But the idea of vanishing forever had never been more seductive. No more headlines, no more accusations, no more being Brandon Keller. He pawned his MacBook for $400. Sold his last Ethereum for groceries. He was officially broke. One night, as his car engine sputtered its final breath in a Walmart parking lot, Brandon knew he'd hit bottom. He curled up in the back seat with a hoodie for a pillow and waited for the sun to rise, or the world to end. But the world didn't end. Something else did. Pride. For the first time in years, Brandon allowed himself to feel weak. He wasn't trying to fix anything or spin a narrative or impress anyone. He was just a man with no money, no home, and no one left to lie to. That's when he saw her. It was 6:43 a.m. A dusty gray Corolla pulled into the parking lot. A woman stepped out carrying a tray of coffee and a brown paper bag. She wore an old college hoodie and aviator sunglasses. Brandon didn't recognize her at first, not until she walked straight to his car and knocked gently on the window. "Brandon?" He sat up, blinking against the morning sun. "Christina?" Christina Matthews. His ex-girlfriend from college. The one who'd once said, "You're going to change the world someday." The one he left behind when he moved to Silicon Valley for a startup that crashed in 6 months. She didn't look angry, just tired and concerned. "I saw the Reddit threads," she said softly, handing him a cup of coffee. "I figured you might be close. You used to love this Walmart." Brandon took the cup, unable to meet her eyes. "I messed everything up," he whispered. Christina sat beside him on the curb. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The parking lot buzzed with early shoppers, carts clattering, birds chirping above. It was the most human moment Brandon had felt in months. "I know," she finally said. "But that's not all you are." They talked for hours, about college, life, failure. Christina had become a high school teacher. She told him how her students had been swept up in the crypto craze, how some of them lost real money, how they blamed themselves, and how she thought maybe Brandon could help them understand that failure wasn't the end. It was just data. "You're still smart," she said. "You still have something to say." Brandon laughed bitterly. "I have nothing left." Christina looked him dead in the eye. "Then you're finally ready to build something real." That night she let him crash on her couch. The next morning she took him to a local community center where she volunteered. There was a group of teenagers in a workshop called Money Myths. One of them asked Brandon, "Is crypto just gambling?" He looked at the kid. "Thought of Luca. Thought of himself." "Not always," he said. "But it is when you think it'll solve everything." The room went silent. Something in Brandon shifted. It wasn't redemption. Not yet. But it was the start of something he'd forgotten. Purpose. "Thank you so much for sticking with me until now. Your presence is essential to this journey, and the best is yet to come." Rebuilding wasn't cinematic. There were no applause breaks, no triumphant background scores, just early mornings, awkward conversations, and the painful process of telling the truth, starting with himself. Brandon moved into a modest one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat in Birmingham, Alabama. Rent was cheap. The neighbors didn't care who he was. That anonymity became his sanctuary. No more penthouses, no more press, just space to breathe. He took a job as a junior developer at a small tech startup that built budgeting apps for schools. The CEO was in her 20s, brilliant and unimpressed by his crypto past. In the interview, Brandon didn't bring it up. When asked about the 2-year gap in his resume, he paused, then answered honestly, "I lost myself chasing easy money. I'm here to build things that actually help people." She hired him anyway. Brandon started therapy. At first it felt pointless, then terrifying. then necessary. He unpacked his addiction to praise, his fear of irrelevance, his desperation to prove he mattered. Week by week, he pieced together the man underneath the ego. Not Brandon the Crypto King, not Keller Crypto, just Brandon Keller. Flawed, capable, enough. The more he healed, the more he felt the pull to do something with his story. Not to capitalize on it, but to redeem it. With Christina's encouragement, he launched a nonprofit called The Ledger Project, a financial literacy initiative for teens and young adults. No altcoins, no hype, just raw, honest education about money, how it works, how it's weaponized, how to protect yourself from both scams and your own greed. The first event had 9 attendees, then 22. Then a local news outlet ran a story titled, "Former Crypto Millionaire Teaches Teens What He Learned the Hard Way." Donations trickled in. Volunteers showed up. People began to listen, not to the millionaire, but to the man who'd lost everything and came back with nothing but truth. Brandon still got hate mail. Some people never forgave him. He didn't expect them to, but each time a student told him, "Your story saved me from making the same mistake," it chipped away at the guilt. He never touched crypto again. He started journaling, not for YouTube, not for clicks, just for himself. In one entry, dated exactly 1 year after the Luca betrayal, he wrote, "It wasn't the money that ruined me. It was what I thought the money made me. I didn't lose a fortune. I lost my reflection, and now I'm rebuilding it. Not on hype, not on charts, but on choice." He never heard from Luca again. Sometimes Brandon wondered if Luca had scammed someone even bigger, or if he'd vanished into the same digital mist from which he emerged. Other times, he didn't think about Luca at all. One Saturday evening, after leading a workshop at a local high school, a student approached him. Nervous, hopeful. "Mr. Keller," he said, "do you ever wish you could go back? Undo everything?" Brandon paused, looked at the kid, smiled. "No," he said, "because I'd still be chasing the wrong things, and I'd never have met you." The student nodded. Brandon walked to his car, the night air warm, the sky clear. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't haunted by charts or losses or headlines. He was just a man, finally whole. We chase wealth thinking it will save us, that it will erase our fears, validate our choices, and protect us from the void we don't want to face. But sometimes, wealth just amplifies the silence. Brandon Keller's story isn't unique because he made $1 million in crypto. It's unique because he survived what came after. The betrayal, the collapse, the mirror that showed him who he truly was when the money vanished. What he built in the end wasn't a portfolio. It was character, and that is priceless. Now I want to hear from you. What would you have done in his place? Would you have seen the signs? Would you have trusted Luca? Or would you, like so many of us, have fallen for the dream? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's talk about what success really means. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel for more dark, true stories from the world of money, betrayal, and redemption. We'll see you in the next episode. And trust me, it's even more unbelievable.